Hello everyone, it's Kelly here from Spiritual Awakening Signs, and we've got a video today all about anxiety, all about spiritual awakening anxiety, which, let's be honest, is just a nightmare. I went through it too, but don't worry, because we're going to cover everything you need to know about spiritual awakening anxiety in this video, including the purpose, the reason why we actually get it, and what you can do to reduce it long term, because there are things that you can do to make it so much easier, and I know that you'll feel a lot better when you get to that point as well. So we're going to cover that. I feel that spiritual awakening anxiety is a really important topic that we really need to cover, because by far, especially for me, it was the worst symptom that I had. Absolutely the worst symptom. There is nothing worse than feeling that you are climbing the walls with anxiety and panic and fear and stress when you're really just trying to transform and move through your awakening experience. And it's the one thing I would say that can take it from feeling like this wonderful, exciting transformation to just feeling like a curse, really feeling like something bad that's happening to you that you just can't get through. Well, you are going to get through it, because we've got everything you need to know right here, and we'll make sure that you're doing okay. So I'd just like to say hello to everyone who's joined us live. Please say hello, tell me who you are and where you're from, and I'll give you a little shout out. And of course, we're going to get into all of this. So if you resonate with that, if anxiety is something that you've had, please do tell us below, because it's always good to share this and everyone can see that it's just a normal part of awakening. But we're going to cover all of that. So let's get into it now. So like I said, it was one of the worst symptoms that I had was anxiety. Absolutely terrible. And I constantly felt this feeling of impending doom. You know, I always felt like something really bad was going to happen, and I just couldn't find what it was. I just felt like I was constantly in anticipation, waiting for something. And that can be confusing too, particularly when your intuition is so on point. It makes you start to think, does this anxiety mean that something bad is going to happen? Like, what's really going on? Well, don't worry, because that's not what it is. But it does tend to make you feel that way. But there are a few things that I want you to know about spiritual awakening anxiety. Before we really get into the video, there are a few things that I think, if you know these, will probably help. And actually, it's a really exciting topic. There's lots of great things about it, so we will cover that too. But the first thing I want you to know is that anxiety is a natural part of the awakening process. It's absolutely normal. It's absolutely natural to be anxious during your spiritual awakening. And we're going to go into why it's almost definite that you're going to experience anxiety in your awakening journey in just a moment. But absolutely natural, but not necessary. And there are things we can do to shift it. The anxiety that you're feeling absolutely will pass. It won't be there forever. It won't last forever. It will shift. So please know that. And also, it's actually a sign that your ascension journey is right on track. And I'm going to explain in the video what that really means and why that indicates that you are right on track. So if you've got anxiety, you're right on track with your ascension. We're going to cover that. Hi to Stacey. I can see Stacey's joined us from Boston. Hello there. Thank you for joining us. And of course, if you're joining later, please say hello, tell me who you are and where you're from. And of course, if anxiety is an issue for you too, because that's what we're working on today. So in order for us to really break down why it's so normal for us to experience anxiety throughout the awakening process, we need to really boil the awakening process down and simplify it so that you can understand the steps really, really simply. And I really am making it very, very simple, because it is, right? So what happens during spiritual awakening is that at a predetermined time, our systems become absolutely flooded with high vibrational white light energy. So this is how awakening begins. All this high vibrational white light energy moves into our space, into our energy, and into our bodies. And that influx of energy is the catalyst. It's the thing that starts to open all our psychic senses. It starts to heighten them really, really intensely, so that we can start to pick up all the psychic information around us, so that we start to be guided and led by our intuition. And that really switches on in a big way, which is usually what people notice first. And then, of course, our emotional centres are opened as well, which is not as much fun. Our emotional senses and centres get opened, which makes us extremely sensitive emotionally, and it brings all our emotions right up to the surface so that they can be released, so that they can be healed, and so that we can be more whole and complete as a soul. We can gather all the wisdom from the experiences we've had and let the pain go, right? So that's really it in simple steps. That's what we're talking. But the challenge comes when we go through anxiety, because what happens is, as a natural part of awakening, when we experience that high vibrational white light that moves into the body, that starts the entire awakening process, really it begins to flood our system in a way that can be detrimental. So what happens is that high vibrational white light energy moves into your energy and your physical body, and our physical bodies aren't ready for it yet. They don't have enough density to really ground the energy into the earth. And by that, it's a bit like, grounding electrical currents. We don't have enough grounding in our energy and in our physical bodies to really anchor it to the earth. And that's what causes the problem. It's like we're getting charged up, we're getting completely overcharged by the energy, and that can cause us problems. So if you imagine us like a sponge, absorbing, it just becomes absolutely so intense that our systems can't handle it, and that's what creates the symptoms that causes so many problems. That's why, your emotions get even more heightened and your sensitivity gets really, really strong, and it's so difficult to live and work with. But it will pass, right? So we're going to go into it. I can see people are saying they're having a hard time hearing. I hope this is a little bit better if I have the mic a little closer. I'm not sure why it's so quiet today, guys. Let's just see. Hopefully I can make it a little bit better. So I hope you can hear me okay. So one thing I really want you to know about anxiety during spiritual awakening is it's not necessary. Okay, so even though I'm telling you it's a natural part of the awakening process, it's not necessary for you to feel anxious at any point in order for you to spiritually awaken. You can spiritually awaken without anxiety. You just need to know how, and you need to know what that anxiety is really telling you, what the purpose really is, and we're going to go into that in just a moment. So we are going to cover that. So I want to say a few hellos. Let's just see. So we've got Melissa has joined us. Hi there. We've got Mimi from Georgia. Awesome. We've got Jan from Minnesota. Hello. We've got, I said hello to Melissa from Massachusetts. Awesome. We've got Stephanie, who is new here, dealing with really high anxiety. I'm sorry to hear that, but don't worry, I've got your back. We've totally got you covered, and I'm about to explain why, because we've got a free masterclass coming up. And we've got Tina and Stacey as well. I can see they're saying they're having a hard time hearing. I hope this is a little bit clearer. I'm not sure what's going on. But just get the volume cranked up because you don't want to miss this, okay? But what I do want you to know is we have just launched an absolutely free, brand new masterclass all about anxiety. It's called From Anxious to Awakened in 3 Easy Steps. It's a real in-depth masterclass, and it's absolutely everything that you're going to need to know for the awakening process. So I'm going to cover more about that just shortly and tell you the details so that you can access it. But definitely a really important part of your awakening process, because everybody goes through anxiety. So don't worry, we're going to tackle it. We're going to get it all sorted in the masterclass, and you'll want to take notes because it's really extensive, but it's everything you need to know. Okay, so moving on. Like I said, it's not necessary for you to feel anxious in order to awaken, but what I do want you to know is that it's such a natural part of awakening, because our bodies have never experienced a volume or intensity of high vibrational white light like that ever. Okay, it's an entirely new experience for the body and for the energy system. And what tends to happen is it perceives it to be anxiety. The body reads the information and says, something's wrong, okay, it's anxiety. But really what's actually going on is it's energy. We think it's anxiety, when really it's energy. So really that anxiety is an indicator that we're becoming overcharged, and it's our body's way of letting us know you've really gone too far, there's too much energy in your system, and you're going to need to disperse some of that. Okay, that's the indicator that lets you know what's happening. And don't worry, we cover all of that in the free masterclass, and we'll show you what to do and how to heal it and everything else. But for now, that's really what I want you to know. That is your indicator, that is your red flag that lets you know there's too much high vibrational energy in your system, and you really need to ground it. And if you can ground your energy, you're going to completely shift the symptom. If you can ground your energy, quite often you'll move anxiety in minutes. But there's a really specific ways that you need to ground, and quite often the traditional methods can make it worse. I'm not going into it here, it's all in the masterclass, but a lot of the traditional ways of grounding with crystals, essential oils, yoga, meditation, incense, sage, anything like that, quite often can make your anxiety worse. So make sure that you know all about that. But yeah, we'll help you in the masterclass. So the purpose of spiritual awakening anxiety, this is what I wanted to cover, because people think it's a bad thing. When you feel that anxiety, all that's going to register is doom and gloom. Something's wrong. I'm fretting. I don't feel good. It's an awful feeling. It is absolutely the worst. But what most people don't realise, particularly when you're caught in that relentless cycle of spiritual awakening anxiety, is that quite often it is followed by something quite remarkable. Quite often, really high vibrational anxiety is followed by some sort of spiritual breakthrough. Now, this used to happen to me all the time and sometimes still does. So it's important to note that you're never going to completely eradicate anxiety entirely. It serves a function in the body. It's an important part of your alarm system. You're always going to have it, and you may at times require it for your body to be able to send you a message, but you can reduce it, because at the moment the anxiety that you're feeling is unnecessary. Okay? But what I want you to know is that there are times where this anxiety can actually lead to a spiritual breakthrough. And it's kind of like when you're switching between that super charged feeling, which is way up here, and super grounded, which is way down low, you kind of go through this like mini enlightenment somewhere in the middle there. And it's the grounding part of it, the part where you really anchor yourself to the earth, that allows you to come to epiphanies, realizations, powerful cognitive shifts, spiritual breakthroughs. That's when all your wisdom can really begin to filter through into the mind, and you're grounded enough that you can put it in order and it starts to become fully realized thoughts. That's how we get all these amazing epiphanies. It's like once you're grounded, it takes the higher stuff, it kind of does a little alchemical kind of recipe and changes it, and it becomes something solid that you can actually use. And I used to find that for me, sometimes it was days where I got up and the moment I opened my eyes, the anxiety was so bad. It's not really like this anymore, so it's okay. But the anxiety would be so bad, and I'd be climbing the walls all day, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I just sometimes would end up crying, or my chest would be so tight, there'd be knots in my stomach, and I couldn't eat, and I felt sick, and I would just be cursing the awakening process. I would just be like, why is this happening to me? Because it felt so unfair, and it was just so draining to feel like that all the time, every single day, with no way to alleviate it. But the interesting thing is that it was quite often on those particular days where anxiety was really bad, that when I sat down to maybe meditate at the end of the day, I would have some sort of spiritual breakthrough. So it became a signal for me that something spiritually was coming. So maybe I would connect with a new spirit guide, or I would come to a new insight, or move to a higher level, or realise some sort of level of new awareness. Something really cool spiritually would always happen, and it shifted how I felt about the anxiety, because then when it came up, even though at that point I hadn't quite learned how to shift it and get rid of the anxiety, it became an indicator of, okay, this feels really awful, but I know I'm going to have some sort of fantastic spiritual breakthrough, something exciting and fun is going to happen. And it shifted it from feeling like complete anxiety to like anticipation and excitement, like maybe this is going to be something great, which it really was. So don't panic about it when it happens, and I know it's so much easier said than done when you feel like that, but don't panic about it, because there are things you can do to remove the anxiety ridden part of it and just keep the wisdom. That's what we want to do, and that's when you're really moving through the awakening process in a way that you are actively managing the process, because that energy is going to keep coming into your system. That energy is going to keep coming. If you don't ground that energy in a way that really takes care of your health and your energetic health throughout the awakening process, it's just going to spiral out of control. And you may even get into the space where I did, where you're having panic attacks, you're having anxiety attacks in the middle of the night. It's not good, and it's really, really difficult. And the worst part is that no one else gets it. Unless you're on that awakening journey and you can say to someone, I've got all this anxiety and there's like tons of energy moving through me, which most people don't get. Everybody's just kind of like, okay, Kelly, yeah. But you guys get it. That's just what happens. But please know that it doesn't need to be that way. You can make it so much easier, okay? I'm just going to answer a few comments. Now, if you have any comments or you want to talk about anxiety or anything, put it in, type it in below and let us know, and share it here. We'll talk about it for a few minutes and I'll guide you, and then we'll get into this masterclass that's really going to help you. I'm so excited to share this with you, because I really wish it's the one thing, if I'd been able to watch this video when I was going through awakening at that point with such bad anxiety, it just would have changed everything. So I'm time travelling as well here, trying to solve my old wounds. So I can see Bonnie says it's an awful feeling. I so wish I knew this when I started this process over a year ago. So happy others will get this information. Me too. I was scared as I'd never had anxiety previously, and that's the tough thing. You might never have been an anxious person in your life. Unfortunately, I was. I'm a natural worrier, and I'm very, very sensitive, but not everyone's like that. Sometimes you go through awakening and it's just like, oh my God, what is this feeling? It's just terrible, and there's just nowhere you can go to hide from it. It's a really, really tough part of awakening. Bibian says it's exhausting. It really is. Let's see. Bonnie says, I could not eat for months. Lots, all your digestive system. This is where awakening moves into. The energy is not just affecting your energy, it's affecting your body. It's putting you into fight or flight. It's having a physical reaction in the body. Bonnie says, it was every day, very intense. I really didn't function, and I was off work for almost a year. Similar thing happened to me, actually. Got to the point I just could not function, and it was like, I'm out, can't do it. And I don't want you guys to get to that point. It's really unfortunate that, Bonnie, you got to that point, and I did too, but it doesn't need to be that way. There are things you can do to just take the anxiety off, to let the pressure off, and just move into that lovely phase of awakening where you're getting the peaks and you're getting the good stuff, and sometimes some challenges come up because we are healing after all, but like generally it's a manageable process. Melissa says spirit work is hard. That sounds like an old belief system that might need to be cleared as part of your awakening. I think that's coming up for clearing for you, and there may be some blocks there, but sometimes if the energy is too much for you, it can be challenging. Let's see, what else have we got? Mimi says, my dreams are really intense, and my dreams are telling my family and peers business. I'm not sure if I'm picking that up right. I think it means you're getting a lot of insight, so that's interesting that you're picking up lots of different things. And Melissa says, thankfully my bestie and I are going through this together. You are so lucky, absolutely lucky. Mimi also says, same, and it's been hard for me to eat. A lot of us do. We get real challenges with eating, with functioning in normal daily life, and it becomes like a huge burden because you're not just dealing with awakening, you're then dealing with this anxiety condition that you just don't know how to handle, but we can make it easier, okay, so it's going to be okay. Tina says, I'm on disability for anxiety for a month now. I'm sorry to hear that, and struggling with medication that the healthcare system is recommending. Any thoughts on whether I should be taking meds? This is the thing, one thing that I do want to cover here, thank you for bringing that up, Tina, is that sometimes we have this perspective in spiritual awakening that if you have to give in to medication, somehow you're not doing it right. Or if you have to go down that route that it's too physical and it should all be energetic. That's not necessarily the case. It's not going to affect your awakening process. Nothing's going to stop you from getting where you need to go. So if you're being guided at the moment, if physically you need a little bit of an aid or some sort of 3D assistance, then that's okay, but you need to trust your gut. For me personally, it was something that I didn't want to do, and I managed it by myself. And not everyone is necessarily going to be on that journey. There are times when we need medical intervention. So if it's something that's going to help you to move through that spot, do that, but do it while also putting the things in place that are going to help your awakening. So watch the masterclass, put those things in place, and you might find that the anxiety reduces to a level where you can work with a healthcare provider to reduce your medication, which would really be an ideal. That's really when you're working with 3D and 5D all in one spot. That would be really great. Fantastic. So get on with a little bit more of this because I talk about it all day. So like I said, it's the anxiety that brings through the energy. It's the grounding that brings you to epiphanies, enlightenment, realizations, powerful cognitive shifts, and that's what you really want. You want these spiritual breakthroughs. So these can definitely come if you know how to ground it properly, okay? But I know what you're going to be thinking. For a lot of us, when you go through awakening and you're having all these anxiety symptoms and they're so intense and it's so much in your 3D physical body, which doesn't feel spiritual at all, but it is, it can make you question, is there something wrong with me? Is my awakening not going to plan? Am I doing it wrong? Should I be more together? Am I weak in some level because I've ended up with all this anxiety? Not at all. Not at all. And I can say that from experience because I went through it all. And I'm doing okay. So what I need you to know is it's actually an indicator usually that you are right on track, okay? The spiritual awakening anxiety, while it's not necessary, and we're going to get rid of it in the masterclass, you are right on track if you're experiencing that, because really all it is telling you is that you are being one of three things. You're either being charged, you're being energetically heightened, which is a good thing, you're going up a level, or you're being psychically or spiritually opened in some way. So those three things are all generally positive. You're being charged energetically, you're being energetically heightened, so you're going up a level, or you're being psychically or spiritually opened, which is only going to make your senses, your awareness, your intuition even better. So the anxiety is the kind of, I suppose it's the alert system that all this energy is moving into your space, that you're right on track, your awakening is working, but you don't need to feel that way. It's all under divine control. Everything will be okay, right? But it doesn't need to be that difficult, and it definitely doesn't need to be that anxious, okay? There may be moments in awakening where you'll feel that, you'll pick up on things. It's still an alert system of the body, but you can probably get rid of at least 80% of it, I would say, by employing some of the techniques that we're going to be teaching in the Masterclass. So I really want you to know you're moving through your awakening experience just fine. You just need some management skills put in place to allow you to take better care of your energy and your physical body, okay? You're right on track. It's okay. So if you want to learn how you can ground your energies, this is where we get into the Masterclass. There's going to be a lot of information in there. You're going to want to take notes, and you're going to apply these to make the anxiety a whole lot better, okay? We actually had one lady who gave us a review, and she employed just a few of the techniques in the video, and her symptoms got 80% better within 3 or 4 days. 80% better, so you can definitely make this so much better and feel a lot better really, really quickly. So our masterclass is called From Anxious to Awakened in 3 easy steps. I'm really, really proud of this, and I can't wait to share it with you. So in the video, we're going to cover how to release the anxiety that quite often comes with spiritual awakening pretty much immediately. How I stopped my spiritual awakening anxiety, which included panic attacks, using energy healing, and how you can too. We're also going to cover the secret key to keeping it away long term, because there's no point releasing it just for the moment. It's an everyday thing. You'll wake up tomorrow, it'll be there again. It's about releasing it long term. Immediate relief in our energy healing tutorial. So I'm going to guide you through applying the energy healing, and you'll be able to try it right in the video to get that shift and feel better straight away. 3 big mistakes that are making your anxiety much worse. There are 3 things that if you do them, which everybody does in spiritual awakening and in the spiritual community, they'll make your anxiety a whole lot worse. And if you just remove those 3 mistakes, you'll see a big, big improvement. And of course, how to shift from anxious to even more fully awakened in just 3 simple steps. So it is a jam-packed class. It's a jam-packed video. You can watch it on demand. The link is in the description. If you click on that link, it'll take you right to it. You can get instant access to the video and begin watching it right now. And I'm really excited to hear how you guys get on with your symptoms of anxiety. It doesn't need to be that way, and you don't need to put up with it, absolutely. So definitely, we want some positive shifts, and you will get them. Now, I just want to address one more comment. I saw that Mimi said, do I need to ground for 2 or 3 weeks staying away from spiritual practices? I usually recommend at least 2 weeks, unless you're in spiritual emergence territory where you feel that your body's breaking down and your health's really not good. You're looking for about 2 weeks. But watch the masterclass, because it's going to guide you through everything you need to do, all the things you can remove, all the things to avoid. It's going to make sure you know everything you need to know to get rid of this really, really quickly, and you can literally start right now. So that link is below. Have a click on it, get the video, and get started. And please let me know how your anxiety improves. I know it will just transform your awakening to just take that pressure off. What a big shift that'll make, and I'm really excited for you guys to get that relief. I know that's so important for you. So all the best on your awakening journey. I'll continue to share videos. Remember to click below to be notified whenever we go live, or to subscribe. And take care, guys. See you soon.